very first ever Renter Obsessed Live. My name is Sydney. I am your host. Today, we have our crew of our very first ever Renter Obsessed members. So thank you guys all for being here. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about a very specific subject, at least around me in the multifamily industry, and that's influencer marketing. So we're going to focus on that today. We're going to dive a little deeper into different ways we can implement it at our portfolios. We're going to talk about the things that might be holding us back, the challenges that we might face in pitching this idea to our team. And we're going to learn where everyone in this group is at with it, what experiences you've had with it, what you plan on trying. And if you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away. We have some prepared for us and we have some prepared for you and some polls as well. So before we dive in, I know that some of you guys have heard a little bit about my experience with influencer marketing and multifamily, but I am going to just give you a quick recap. When I was on your side of the game, doing marketing for a property management company, I had a lease up. And I found an influencer who lived in Portland, where I live as well. And she ended up moving into our building. We did a 9-month trade apartment for a rent-free apartment for content and posting to her own channels. So we're going to start with that story, and I'd love to hear some of your experiences as well. So Caitlin, do you want to get it started?
Yeah. So to kick off the conversation, we have one question. How do you source the right influencer for your property?
Yeah, totally. So I found Olivia, the one that I moved into my property pretty serendipitously. Accidentally, I found her while I was trying to get one of my YouTube videos to rank. And she happened to be outranking me for the term Southeast Portland apartments because she was using the term minimalist Southeast Portland apartment. We all know how big that was, like in 2018. So clearly she had the perfect keyword strategy. And so I reached out to her that way after reading through her comments and seeing all those people saying, like, where do you live? I want to live there too. Just a ton of that same thing, and just thinking, gosh, all these people want to move into her apartment because of this very simple video. Why can't I recreate that at one of my communities? So reached out to her that way, but that's not realistic. Like, that's not a way to go find an influencer. That was just pure luck. So I had a conversation with her about, well, how do you find an influencer? So obviously there's different consultancy agencies out there. You can, spend some money, different programs to source influencers. Janie, I know that you worked with an agent, not an agency, but just a finding service before, didn't you?
Yeah, we tried some platforms before. But for us as a niche industry was an accounting software, we still found that like this one-on-one research and LinkedIn search worked better than paying big amount of money to these platforms.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also, there's other in our own industry, there's marketing agencies that can help you source influencers. But in my experience, I didn't have a budget. I didn't have buy-in yet to try it because it hadn't really been done before. So luckily I found one on my own. But another thing that you can do, so like here in Portland, we have big landmarks. We have, the Rose Test Garden. We have really cute restaurants. And a lot of these either landmarks or trendy places have their own social profiles. And so influencers are going to influence, right? They're going to want to be taking pictures in the coolest places in their area. And so if you look for those cool places, go to their tagged photos, you can start to see who's out there in your area, who's creating content, how good is their content? For example, Meeting House, where I worked with Olivia, our color palette was like all these earth tones, like rust and mustard and like these neutral colors. And so as I'm scrolling through her photos, everything has like a slightly orange tinge to it. It's all warm. And so as if you have your brand personality already built, as you're scrolling through these tagged photos of these trendy businesses in your area, you can keep an eye out for palettes that match yours. So then you have that brand consistency. Their content looks good on your website, and it's worth reusing in places like apartments.com or Zillow even. Does anyone have any questions about that? Or has anyone maybe in a different industry or in this one sourced an influencer before, or have any ideas of other ways we could find them?
I have an example. If you guys
Okay.
have a story, so it's not related to multifamily, but you can apply. I was hired as a consultant for nail salon in Texas, and we wanted to get micro influencers. And the first kind of impulse was to go to one of this platform and get a beauty blogger. But when I went there, I see that they're not very loyal, and the audience is not loyal as well. They use lots of advertising, so I found that that's not the best way for our boutique, unique nail salon. So I looked at like value props that our nail salon has, and it was a unique mask that they use for cracked heels, then all natural ingredients and express services. And then I started thinking like, okay, who can benefit from that the most? And I literally I just researched, I put I think it was professions that put the most impact on heels, stuff like this. And I came up with like professional sport people because they run a lot. I was like, okay. Then I Googled, it was in Houston, professional influencers, runners in Houston. And that's how I got to Olympic runner who had, I think around 15 to 20,000 followers, which was perfect. They had a really dedicated and engaged audience, and then became influencer. And then I thought, okay, it's a natural ingredient thing. So who else can benefit? And I found a lifestyle blogger who was also pregnant, and she was afraid to use chemicals on her. And then the last influencer we got was a nurse, because there were many hospitals in Houston. And I reached out to their HR and I asked, what are the regulations there as well? And nurses have to be, they have to have a clean makeup and nail salon, nail things, but it cannot be too vulgar or too much. And every hospital has their own regulations. So we collected these regulations and we said, okay, we know you're busy. We know that your regulations are tight. We know what your hospital approves, and we can do it really fast. So, and we got booked in the first week of this launch, 2 months ahead. And this kind of thing you can also use in your property. Look around in your properties and think what you have unique. Let's say if you have a unique kitchen in common area that is beautiful, or your apartment is famous for beautiful kitchen area, target cooking influencers, for example. Or if you have dog lovers, or you have a little park next to you, or some areas in the park, in the property. I used to rent an apartment and it had a professionally equipped room to wash your dogs. I tell everybody about this apartment. Everybody has dogs. So think about these unique things that you can offer, and then look for your influencers.
Absolutely. Those are such great examples. The best thing about creating content for apartments and selling and marketing apartments is that they're niche, but they're not. Everybody needs a place to live. Every apartment has a different personality that can be very unique, whether it's a dog lover place or a foodie place, or maybe you have a really epic gym and you want some gym influencers in there. Pick out what stands out, and your residents will tell you, or your prospects will tell you when you're touring apartments, or ask your teams when they're touring apartments, what location at this property do their eyes light up? And that can, or they get excited about, that can really inform the type of influencer that makes the most sense there. And I love what you said about micro influencers, audiences being super engaged. One of the things with Olivia, so Olivia, I wouldn't really consider her a micro influencer. She had 100,000 Instagram followers and 20,000 YouTube followers. So she's a pretty significant influencer, but that's not always needed. And not everybody has the ability to give away a fully free apartment, especially if you're stabilized and you're just looking to interject a little bit of influencer marketing in. You can find these micro influencers, and you have something to trade that's really unique. For example, if you have a really beautiful kitchen and you find a foodie influencer with 5,000 to 10,000 followers, I bet they would love a gorgeous background for them to create a video or create a piece of content. So offer that space to them for free. They have a new space for their following, and then you just get a tag out of it and then get to repurpose their content and share their content. So that's a pretty low stakes way to do it. Also businesses, if you, there was a local interior designer here in Portland, and they helped Olivia stage her apartment. And that was a brand collaboration they did that, of course, we got brought into. But if you are about to, set up a model home, maybe you find a local interior designer that has a good following, you collaborate with them. And part of it's not just hiring them to stage your model, but capturing their audience, having them post about it, getting it published on Apartment Therapy. That's one of the things that happened a few times with these influencers that I found is, their photos in their apartment was so cute. Their niche was interior design, which is kind of like the money niche for influencers. When you're looking for one for apartments, especially if you have like a luxury apartment, get yourself a good photographer that focuses on interior design. Then screw those models, right? Like this is a real staged apartment. It's so pretty. I mean, we took those photos. Jania and I were talking the other day about where else could you use influencer marketing? And one of the things that we did was we took one of her home office photos right in the beginning of COVID and created a pin out of it on Pinterest, and it went viral. I can't remember how many times that thing was shared and clicked on, and how much the traffic it sent to our website was kind of okay, because they're not really there to rent, they're there to look at the decor. But we switched it, so we started sending the traffic to our Instagram account from that pin, and our follower count just went through the roof. So there's so many ways to repurpose content. Even if an influencer didn't drive a single true lead to your property, the content that they create for you is really powerful. And I've definitely found that to be true. But also you want them to drive leads to you because your president's like, well, what is this new marketing source, influencer marketing? Show me why. So one of the things that was really important when I worked with Olivia is I looked at her audience demographic. She could show me that the largest portion of her audience was in Portland, which is important because you can't ship an apartment across the United States like you can, ship a shampoo bottle or something. So that was really important to me. Also, you don't really want an influencer whose followers are under 18 and they can't rent an apartment. So make sure you find someone that's willing to pull back the veil for you. And, they're used to working with brands and showing that kind of information. Has anyone here tried to create content and create ads for Instagram or Facebook or any of those places and had your ad flagged because you can't actually target anyone with fair housing laws? Yeah, you can't. It's illegal. And that's totally fair. It should I love fair housing laws, but when you try to market to everyone, you market to no one. And then it just falls flat and you don't get the return on your investment. But in my mind, I can't think of a better way to target your ideal customer profile, your ideal renter profile than with an influencer, because you can find a person that mimics what the persona that you've created for your building that you think will be most attracted to your building. Find someone that mimics that persona, and the likelihood of people with like-minded people to them, that's how you target them. You target dog lovers because you have a great dog park or dog washing station with influencers who are known for posting dog content. You can even use dog influencers. I follow dog influencers. They don't have to be people. Cool. So yes, always ask for those demographics. Always ask for engagement rates too, because what you're saying, Jania, I mean, they might have a lot of followers, but are they engaging with the content? Are they real followers? And you can do there's some tools to analyze whether or not people's audiences are bots or real people. But yeah, I have a question for everyone here. Do you want to run that poll, Caitlin?
For sure.
I'm very, very curious as to what these answers will be.
So I'm going to launch a quick poll and it will come on your screen in just a few seconds. All right.
Right. So the poll question we have prepared is, have you ever used influencer marketing at any of your communities? Yes, never, or I'd like to try.
Okay. Waiting on two more, I believe.
Ooh, so far it's
Ooh.
very evenly split. All right, you want to go for it?
Yep. So we have 2 people voted yes, 2 people voted never, and 2 people voted I'd like to try in 2022. So out of those who said yes, I'd like to hear more about that, unless it's Sydney and Gina.
It wasn't me. Who has tried it?
I can go.
Yeah.
So I didn't, it wasn't me. It was this, I was actually about 2 years ago. We decided to use, we had a model that we were using for a 2-bedroom that we really liked what the interior designers did with Aqua and the Levy apartments in Newport, Kentucky. And that was built about 5 years ago. So it's still pretty new. So I think they decided to reach out to a marketing firm, and then they got us a lifestyle influencer. And that drove like a lot more a pretty good amount of engagement, but I wouldn't say that. I feel like we could have, now that I'm like listening to you, I feel like even though I wasn't here back then, I wish they would have like kind of, instead of just doing a broad lifestyle, I wish they would have kind of dug a little deeper and maybe like focused, like our view there is amazing. It's a whole view of downtown Cincinnati. Like pick an influencer that likes to go to places that have like amazing views, and like you see influencers have like that go to these like amazing places and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to go there. That's kind of the same feeling you get when you go to this property. And I really wish they would have kind of used that. That's what I would have done. But it still turned out good. But yeah, that's a little bit of my experience.
That is a really unique thing. I didn't think about like a viewfluencer.
Yeah.
I mean, or like a travel, there's so many travel bloggers that I follow that just like, here I am on this balcony in Paris. And it's just like, oh my God. And can you imagine seeing a photo like that and it's saying, oh, actually you can have this view and here's a link to rent this apartment right here. That is that's a really unique thing to highlight. And that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So we also had an influencer. We had a brand new property under construction in Louisville, Kentucky, and we actually found her pretty organically. She lived at one of our communities in Louisville and was moving to Lexington, and just so happened to, wanted to stay within the company. And so we used that aspect of being new to the area and capitalizing on exploring being new to Lexington, as well as not only is she new to Lexington, but so is Grayson on 27. And it kind of came like full circle in terms of like just being new to the area and, capitalizing on all the new opportunities that were coming up with both projects.
That's so cool. What type of content was she creating for you? Was it videos and photos?
Yes, a little bit of both. We asked for video and photo content. We actually, she hosted Galentine's Day at our clubhouse too when it opened. So it was her and all her other influencer friends that came and had, just like a nice get together. And so it really got to showcase the fact that you can host your own resident events there and all the beautiful features and amenities. So it was a little bit of both, like interiors of her apartment home, walkability, and like the surrounding area for the community. So she kind of really encompassed everything that it went along with living at Grayson on 27.
That is really cool. I love the events thing. Olivia threw a Friendsgiving with her influencer friends at our community, in our community room too. And I use the heck out of those photos on our Instagram account years later too. Every year I got to reuse them. Those are really good examples. I have a follow-up question for both of you. Obviously when people think about influencer marketing, they think about the influencer posting the content on their own channel and you getting exposure to their audience. But I'm curious, what was the impact to your own marketing strategy when you had that influencer created content? How did you repurpose it and what type of engagement did you get off that versus your other owned content?
Yeah, you can go. Yeah, go for it.
So we were able to use a lot of some of her photos in terms of some of our ads that we ended up boosting on our own too. But it all kind of came wasn't as easy to track on our end as much as we wanted. I don't think it was as successful as it could have been on our end in terms of our tracking. We did reshare her content that she posted with our other communities just to kind of gain traction back to that property, because she had such a unique story in terms of she started at one of our Hills communities and moved to another one in another location, that we kind of worked that word of mouth. And it doesn't matter which Hills community you're at, you're still going to have the life of a influencer.
Really cool. What about you, Brianna?
So like I said, I wasn't here for I guess the main postings and stuff, but from what I've heard, I know like we just did our launch for our new, or what we rebranded. But I know going forward, which we will do something like that in the near future, I'm sure, but I would have that kind of incorporated into our main, like, our CIG communities webpage and all of those social accounts. That way it kind of gives that same idea of like, you can kind of get this at any of our communities. So yeah, I would definitely disperse that through that main channel, and then as well as that properties as well. And that's all I got for that. But
Those are great.
Yeah, I do have kind of like, do you have any experience of that yourself?
Yes. So I actually think that this is probably going to be a future episode of Render Obsessed Live, but I love the debate between social media marketing and multifamily. Do you have separate accounts and separate brands for every single one of your properties, or do you focus on one corporate brand and let that content that you're getting from these influencers inform the entire brand and focus on Hills or Templeton, which is the one that I did? I ended up shifting to a single corporate account. So it felt like an influencer lived at every one of our buildings. You can be an influencer at every one of our buildings. We have some hands raised. Cassandra, do you want to start?
Sure. So Income Property Management is, I wouldn't say smaller, but it's smaller in comparison to some of the big guys out there. And social media marketing was definitely something that was like not on the table, wasn't on anybody's radar, kind of still is something that's way far out there, but I had to struggle with, do I focus on the corporate account, kind of how you were talking about, or individual properties? And for me, for right now, I would love to branch out one day where it can focus on individual properties, but I kind of reined it back and hopefully deactivated all of the random property ones that were kind of lingering out there, and am trying to focus, and this is like new within the last couple of weeks even, and just focus on their corporate accounts. It's easier to manage right now with COVID, I feel like, too, and just like all the moving parts of everything. And it's been working really successfully for us, at least, and it's been pushing some traffic to our website. And just recently, I've had a lot of property managers say, oh my gosh, why did my leads through our individual website like quadruple in the last like month? Some of them had no idea that they even got leads through the website and thought it was junk mail. I was like, no, that's your leads through the website. That's like actual leads. Please don't, it's not junk, it's not spam. Because I've tried to, in the last couple of weeks, just focus more on like the corporate account and pushing that traffic to our own website. And it's been, I think, pretty successful in the last couple months at least. So
I will say this once, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Social media content, influencer content, it may not be your first touch. It may not have the SEO juice of apartments.com, but oh my God, is that an influential touch? No pun intended. It can move the needle. It can separate you from all of your competitors if it's real and it's authentic and it's done well. Zhenya, you've had your hand raised for a really long time. What's going on?
Yeah, it hurts. No, I was just wanted to add something when you ask about reporting and tracking. What we did, instead of using like barcode or tracking code or referral link, because you can use it on like actual building or apartment when you go in, we would let influencers create a secret phrase or a secret word or secret inside joke that only her and her influencer will know, because she constantly talk about it or post about it. And then whenever they went to location to their like nails done, they have to say the phrase to get a free gift. So that was very actually trackable, and lots of people use it. And these phrases, they would not forget to say. So that was pretty cool.
This is so good for walk-in traffic. Oh my gosh. Yes.
And then I think we have another hand. Kanchan?
Yes. Actually, a question for Katie or Brianna. Working in multifamily and as a marketer, I think when it comes to ownership, the biggest question we get is, what's the return? So based on your experience, how did you track your return and how was it? Like, did you have very successful results having influence on marketers? Sydney, sorry, I don't know if I jumped ahead or.
No, this is exactly where the conversation should be going.
Okay.
This is the meat of the conversation.
Yeah, I think, like Sydney said, like the touches that we got were definitely influential that came from her. And, maybe not all of them resulted exactly in a lead, but it did generate that word of mouth. And, one of the goals of social media is just to get people talking about you. And as hard as that is to track, I mean, I really can, come full circle and lead back to those leads and potentially tours and renters. With the influencer we used, she actually just moved back to Louisville and she moved into another one of our brand new communities. And so she's not, we don't pay her anymore, but she's still creating content about her new home, and her followers are seeing that she's still at a Hills community. And so, I think when you found the right match for your property and your company, you're going to get the results that can ultimately lead to those tours and leases that you want.
I can speak a little bit to that too, because obviously that's huge. And only up at, I'd say like six, 7 years ago, our industry didn't really value marketing that much. I was the first marketer at my last company too. I think a lot of us experienced that. And so proving out these strategies can be challenging when we're so used to, doing things the way they've always been done. For me, I could prove the ROI on using an influencer just in I did not have the budget for the amount of content she was able to create for me. So she didn't generate a single lead at all. The content that she created was so unique and so much of it that we stood out amongst all of our competitors. We did put tracking on her. So YouTube we found was the most powerful. She had a really engaged YouTube audience and people watched those videos, and YouTube, we don't think about it, but YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, second only to Google, obviously. And when we pulled back the curtains and looked at the analytics from her apartment tour video that she did at our community, we saw that 97% of the people that watched it didn't watch it because they already followed her. They watched it because they put it in a search query, Portland apartment tour, and that is what came up. And so we were getting, we had, tracking codes that, flowed from UTM to our Google Analytics to our CRM. And so we were able to see exactly where these people are coming from, what the bounce rate was off our website, what the conversion rate from lead to tour to lease was off of these people, and then circle all that back and see that we received 18 leases out of that content, not just that video, but like her content in general. And so it is all trackable. Obviously, if people are going to do walk-ins, having a code word is like totally the way to go. But especially Instagram stories, you don't need to have 10,000 followers to have a swipe link anymore. Anyone can use links now, and you can have a link in bio, use tools like Later or Linktree to have link in bio and put tracking codes on everything, and you will be able to tell your owners exactly how well that performed for you. And fun fact, sorry, I know you have your hand raised, but one last thing with that apartment tour video, the bounce rate, which is the rate in which people leave your website once they click to it, was low is good, high is bad. We don't want them bouncing off your website. The bounce rate from her content off of our website was half of the traditional apartment advertising that I spent money on. They were twice as engaged as people that came from large advertising places where I was just one of many. And so that was really telling for me on the power of social proof in your marketing. Cassandra?
So I have a question for, I guess it could be for the whole group, but those who have used influencer marketing and those who want or desire to use it. I was wondering, with influencer marketing being so new, do you struggle with telling a compelling story to the owners of why and how this is so important, and in what ways do you show them? I was working on an influencer project for a vacation rental company, and the owner wanted to see the exact numbers of what they were going to bring to us before they committed to what they were going to give. And I'm like, I can really only show you their engagement and kind of tell you a story based off of that, but I can't tell you, like, the owner wanted exactly, like, 10 bookings out of this. I'm like, I can't commit to that. So how would, what's the story that you guys would tell your owners to, for influencer marketing?
I just have a follow-up question for the entire group on that. Can anyone think of one marketing source where you can guarantee your results? Because I can't. It's really scary, signing a 12-month contract when you don't know what the results are going to be. It's a heck of a lot scarier than trading a community room for a few hours, that's for sure. Which is why I did all the research, like this is the expected spend in influencer marketing. These are the top industries that use influencer marketing. I did all that, but I was like, we're spending money on advertising already, and I can't tell you if it's going to work. We got to test it. And the nice thing about influencer marketing is, sure, you can pay an influencer to go and create content for you, but there's so much low stakes trade opportunity. And what I recommend you do, if you want to test it and you're just not getting it, and they're like, no, I still don't believe it, I still need to see results right now. What I did was I sent an email to every single one of my residents, and I didn't have a very big portfolio. It's probably like, I don't know, 30 properties, maybe. And I sent an email to every single one of my residents saying, we're looking for content to post on our social media channels and to use in our advertising that really reflects the true lifestyle of Templeton. We think that it would resonate a lot more with future renters to see what it's really like to live here than to just look at traditional real estate photography. And if we use one of your photos, and we only have a certain amount we have in our budget to use every month, then we'll give you a $20 rent credit per photo. It's like nothing. The perceived value of free rent outweighs real money. I don't know why. I don't. It's $20, which is so minimal. And I was able to find 2 more influencers that lived in my buildings with 5,000 or more followers just from that email, and then got tons more photos to use as well. Kiana?
So I actually did something similar in 2020. I created hashtag CapREIT Connects. And what I was basically asking for is, since everybody was staying at home, nobody was leaving their house, what was it that the apartment could do for you? What are you doing in your apartment that is making you happy or connecting with your life? And so using that hashtag, I had hundreds of residents across my portfolio, and they were doing anything from cooking in their kitchens to family game nights and things like that. And because they were using, of course, the hashtag, then they're also using other hashtags that were connecting us. You start tumbling. So if you're having family game night, then you're associating my company with family, and then people are doing those random searches. And we ended up, and honestly, all we did in return, we made it a big contest, and in return, we gave them a gift card for free dinner for the family, or we did dinner and Target, and people were very excited about it. And we did end up getting a couple. There was a boom with the leasing, just because it was a simple way to get people to to come connect to us. So even if it was just like the kitchen, people are searching for kitchens and they're looking at dinners, and then they see our name and then they start looking at our name and it just tumbles. So it was a really fun idea because a lot of people, and I was surprised, I was a little hectic, like, oh, I'm going to get these pictures that, the residents are going to show me something I don't want to see. But everybody honestly did, fun, loving ideas, even biking. There was pets. That was, of course, pets, but that was just such a fun thing. And it was simple and inexpensive. And so, yeah, I loved it.
That is a perfect example of flywheel marketing. Think about your marketing strategy as a 100% renter obsession, which is where this name came from. Put your residents at the center of your marketing strategy. Let them sell for you and retain them at the same time. That's the secret. How much does it cost to market an apartment, to turn an apartment, to have vacancy loss in an apartment? Wouldn't it be nice if your residents never left, but also when they did have to leave, because, people move, people buy houses, they sold that apartment for you to their friends, to their peers, and everybody was friends at the building, and your resident events were that much better. Your renter generated social media content was that much better. You didn't have to run around as the marketing director to all your 50 properties taking photos of vacant apartments because you used your renter generated content instead of you having to create content or pay for content. And then all of the people that were interested in living at your buildings could see what it's really like to live there and have that social proof instead of seeing something that a marketing director put together, because who the heck cares about brand? They care about your people. And if they can see themselves in your people, then of course they're going to move in. Why wouldn't they?
Now, one of my things that I'm interested in part of this is I would love to see, instead of stock photos, I want to see people actually in our apartments and they're happy and naturally happy. And I would love to see a way to get that type of marketing, a real organic feel type of marketing. And that's what I would love to see. Yeah.
We have another race. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to share something that I experienced recently. I know, like, in the industry, the biggest topic is Gen Zs emerging into the market. So I'm reading a lot of articles, research done by other companies just to understand them. And one of the conversations I had, just talking about the user-generated content or, customer-generated content, I was talking to this person and they mentioned that they were shopping for furniture for their apartment. And they said they stopped looking at the website because they knew most of the photos were photoshopped and high resolution and colors were edited. So what they did was they actually went to the comment section and started looking at the photos that the customers actually took in their living rooms just to understand the tone and the quality and everything, because they didn't believe the pictures that were posted by the brand or the company, which I thought was like,
same
oh,
thing.
wow.
I do that same thing with anything on Amazon. I don't trust anything they tell me. I need to see the real thing. Yes, absolutely. And you know what else too? We talk like Instagram, I don't know, like who knows how long it's going to be around or how, whatever it's whatever social media platform is being used the most in the moment. Think about the type of content that is being consumed right now. Short form video content that is not overly produced. TikToks, where it's just a person with no filters talking, being raw and unfiltered visually and unfiltered vocally, just vomiting into their camera about their life and what's going on. That stuff is performing so much better because the younger generations, and even, us, like the buying generations, the generation of people that are used to having access to every bit of information at the tip of their fingers, they don't have as much brand trust. And so they're relying on their peers and they want to see authenticity. So an influencer does not, in multifamily, does not have to look like an interior design influencer with the most glossy, beautiful, perfect photos that match the tone of your community. It could be someone on TikTok that like writes songs from their bedroom. It could be someone that does videos, like how-to videos of, you know, cleaning, or those videos where they're just like organizing their pantry. Those type of things could perform really well and drive a lot of traffic to your communities too. So we've talked a lot about, you know, different ways we can use them. And I'm now curious, since budgeting was kind of a topic. Do you want to run that next poll, Caitlin?
Yep. So this next poll question says, are you considering setting budget aside for influencer marketing in 2022? Yes, but I want to offer it in the form of rent credits and resident incentives. No, but I'd be interested in a trade. One post for event space, a free apartment for content and posting, or no. So let's see.
Gosh, it's already almost been an hour. This conversation has been flowing. I feel like there's so much more to unpack on this subject too, and all these little, while we're waiting for these responses to come in, I think that in 2 weeks, we're going to have another one of these. I'm probably going to move it up an hour because we got so many East Coasters on the call, and I want to make sure you guys aren't like missing dinner plans because of this. So we're going to bump it up an hour. It's going to be every other Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. on the West Coast. So a late lunch for us. And in 2 weeks, let's get really, really in the weeds with social media. I know we talked a lot about influencers, but like, let's talk about how can we effectively run, as a marketer in multifamily, effectively run social media accounts for our properties individually or for our company as a whole. Sarah Weinman, who was not able to make this call, she was a speaker at AIM as well. And she has some really unique insights on how to leverage your on-site teams as creators and tools that you can give them to help them succeed in that. So I'm going to bring her on next week, in 2 weeks from now as well, so she can speak to that. So I hope you guys join us again so we can talk more about that. And if there's anyone listening in the land of podcasts, and this is a topic that is interesting to you as well, or the land of LinkedIn, then please join us and ask us all your questions and tell us what's working and what's not working, because I got to know. So shall we say the results of this poll? You want to go for it, Caitlin?
80% of you said yes, but I want to offer it in the form of rent credits and resident incentives. And then one of you said no. So there we go.
That's a pretty strong response. Truly, it's new, right? It's hard to set budget aside. I mean, I don't even have budget for regular video content, let alone influencer content. So there are so many different ways we can do this. Your residents are already influencers. And what is influencer marketing but resident referral programs at scale, right? Well, does anyone have any lasting thoughts on the tip of their tongue that they want to say before we wrap this sucker up?
I would say it's easier to sell something to your VPs if you say it's a pilot program and it's something very small. And then later, once you can prove the results, so they are more at ease when you tell them it's a pilot program and it's something very tiny that you're going to run. That's how I got most of my projects approved.
Let me test. I need my testing budget, because you know what? How cool would it be if it actually worked and we were all the first to do it? And you all listening too, you guys can be the second to do it. Amazing. Thank you guys so much. And thank you all for being the original Renter Obsessed live crew. Please come back and hang out with us. After we're done talking about social media in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about other things, and your ideas will inform what we talk about. So please tell your friends. And if you hear anything really cool out there in the world, let us know. If there's anyone that you follow that is really interesting that you'd like to hear from on this podcast or in this live event as well, send me their names. Send me your influencers. Do you guys have influencers that you follow in the industry? business related influencers, marketers, multifamily people. If you have anyone at the top of your mind, connect me with them, because let's get them on the show and we can ask them everything. Thank you all so much, and we will see you soon. See you in a couple weeks.